In October 2011, a British executive named Michael Woodford arrived at the Tokyo headquarters of Olympus Corporation for what he thought was a routine meeting with the board. He had been CEO for 2 weeks. He left without a job, without his security pass, and with a document in his briefcase that he believed could get him killed. What Woodford had uncovered inside one of Japan's most celebrated companies was a secret that 30 executives had been protecting for 13 years, a $1.7 billion hole in the accounts, hidden through a network of shell companies, phantom acquisitions, and payments so obscure that even the auditors hadn't found them. He reported it to the board. The board fired him. And then Michael Woodford did something that changed everything. He went to the press. This is the story of Olympus Corporation, and it is one of the most extraordinary corporate cover-ups in history. Olympus was founded in Tokyo in 1919. By the late 20th century, it had become one of the most respected precision optics companies in the world. Cameras, medical endoscopes, scientific equipment. The brand was synonymous with quality. The company was a pillar of Japanese corporate culture. But underneath that reputation, something had gone badly wrong in the late 1980s. Like many Japanese companies of that era, Olympus had been speculating heavily in financial instruments during the asset bubble. When the bubble burst in the early 1990s, Olympus was sitting on enormous investment losses that, if disclosed, would have devastated the stock price and humiliated the board. So they made a decision. They wouldn't disclose them. They would hide them. And they would keep hiding them until they found a way to make them disappear. They called it tobashi, a Japanese term for the practice of moving losses off balance sheet to avoid recognition. What they built around it was something far more elaborate. Here's where it gets extraordinary. Because the mechanism they used was almost invisible to outsiders. Over the following years, Olympus executives developed a system of using acquisition fees and payments to obscure entities to gradually absorb the hidden losses. When Olympus made legitimate acquisitions, they would dramatically overpay, then channel the excess through a network of Cayman Islands funds back to the original loss accounts. The most brazen example came in 2008. Olympus acquired a British medical equipment company called Gyrus for $2.2 billion, a legitimate deal. But the advisory fees paid on that single transaction came to $687 million, roughly 30 times the industry standard. The fees went to a fund in the Cayman Islands that nobody could fully trace. Nobody questioned it publicly, not the auditors, not the analysts, not the regulators. The numbers were unusual, but Olympus was Olympus. The brand carried trust that the paperwork didn't deserve. And then they hired Michael Woodford. Woodford had been with Olympus for 30 years, working his way up through the European division. In April 2011, he was appointed president and then CEO, the first non-Japanese executive to lead the company. It was presented as a bold, progressive move, a signal that Olympus was ready to modernize. What the board hadn't anticipated was that Woodford would actually read the accounts. Within weeks of taking the top job, Woodford came across an article in a Japanese financial magazine raising questions about the Gyrus acquisition fees. He started digging. He sent letters to the board. He commissioned an independent review. He requested explanations that never came. The numbers didn't add up. $687 million in advisory fees to entities that appeared to exist only on paper. Acquisitions of small Japanese companies, a medical waste recycler, a microwave cookware manufacturer, for hundreds of millions of dollars, written down to almost nothing within months of purchase. He brought his findings to the chairman. He was told to drop it. He refused. On October 14, 2011, Michael Woodford was called into a board meeting in Tokyo. He sat down expecting a discussion. Instead, all 15 board members voted to remove him as CEO. The meeting lasted minutes. His security pass was taken. He was escorted from the building. He flew back to London with the documents in his bag. And he made a decision that took extraordinary personal courage. He contacted the Financial Times and the Serious Fraud Office. The story broke globally within days. Olympus initially tried to hold the line, claiming Woodford had been fired for cultural mismanagement, for failing to understand Japanese corporate norms. The share price began to fall. Then came the investigations. Then the admissions. On November 8, 2011, less than a month after Woodford's dismissal, Olympus admitted that it had been hiding losses for 13 years. The $1.7 billion hole was real. The gyrus fees were real. The shell companies were real. The share price fell 75% in 3 weeks. If you want to know what happened to the executives, what happened to Woodford, and why nobody inside Olympus stopped this for over a decade, that's all in Part 2. Subscribe so you don't miss it. New corporate collapse every week.